Speaker who needs no introduction. In the age of Marshall McLuhan, where the medium has become the message, I don't think that anybody in Israel needs an introduction to Henrique Cymerman. He'll speak to us on the Islamic State and the battle for the Levant, a journey through Kurdistan. I think that all of us have seen him on TV interviewing world leaders. And I really want to cut this short because I want to give you much more time. So I just will mention also that you are a lecturer at the Interdisciplinary Center, and we don't hold that against you either. And so, Mr. Cymerman, please.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, Uriya, and congratulations for your 3 books. As you said to me, you asked me to take this public to a kind of a journey across the Islamic State front. And it's going to be a little bit different, my presentation, because it's more the way I saw it. And it happened last May. And I'm finishing now a kind of a series of documentaries, of 4-hour documentaries about the world jihad. And that gave us the chance to visit very interesting places in the Middle East mainly, but not only in the Middle East. And I think among these places, the most interesting were in Syria, in Al-Zatari camp in the border of Jordan. And then afterwards, following the refugees, because we are living an electric shock, as you all know, and the Middle East is falling apart. And thousands, millions of people are leaving the Middle East, mainly the elite. And I could see them in Greece, trying to reach Greece from Turkey, and then recently in Morocco. Also in Morocco, there is a city in the north of Africa called Melilla, which is the southern border of Europe, really. And the aim of these people, of the Syrian, of the Iraqi, of Afghani people, of Gaza refugees also. Gaza people are leaving recently, which is something relatively new, a new phenomenon of people leaving the Hamas regime and trying to reach Europe. All of them try to reach Melilla, the city, the Spanish city in the north of Africa, because that's European Union territory. And they know that the moment they are there, they are inside Europe. But one of the most, I think, impressive places... No sound, maybe? Okay. But we can see the pictures, I think. So one of the most interesting journeys in this production was, as I said, in May, in the front of the Islamic State. It was in Kurdistan, in Iraq, and, you know, it was quite surprising for me to feel how close this front is from Israel. We left at 8:30 in the morning in a plane to Amman, 25 minutes. We had 15 minutes waiting in Amman, and 1.5 hours afterwards we were in Erbil in Kurdistan. And the last 15 minutes of the trip, of the journey, of the flight, were on Daesh land. And everybody was very, very tense. You could feel it in the plane because they knew something could happen. The moment we arrived to Erbil and we were invited by the Kurdish president, by the way, Kurdistan is almost a state. It looks like a state. The only sign you have that it's not yet a state is that I had an Iraqi stamp in my passport when I arrived, and then I saw many flags. Even when I interviewed the president of Kurdistan, Masoud Barzani, he had a Kurd flag, but he also had an Iraqi flag. And they said to me, you know, off the record, you know, we now have other problems that we must deal with. Independence will come after ISIS, after Daesh. And that will be the next thing to do. But in the first thing we did the moment we arrived to Erbil, our hosts decided that we should go to the front immediately. And they said, without going to the hotel. There was a bomb in Erbil one day before in the hotel we were supposed to be, and a suicide bomber with some casualties, and they were quite worried. And they took us immediately to the front. They said, let's go and see what happens. The general, our savior, is waiting for you. And it took 25 minutes from the airport to the front, Mahmur front, the main front in the fight against the Islamic State that protects the capital, Erbil. And the story is quite interesting. I saw this gentleman you saw before, this one. His name is Sirwan Barzani, General Sirwan Barzani. He's a kind of the chief of staff of the Peshmerga forces, which is the Kurdish army, men, women. Some of them look like reserve Israelis, miluimnik, 40, 50 years old with some, some bellies, etc. And they come from all over the world to fight. And some of them really live today in Germany and in other places, but they came to help to their people. And they just come and they are really highly motivated. He looks like an opera, I think, actor, but he's not. This man is really a businessman, quite a successful businessman in the telecommunication field. And he was in Germany. And his uncle, the president of Kurdistan, called him and said, Sirwan, you must save the country. You must save our capital. Because ISIS is already 25 kilometers far from Erbil. So you must come. So he said, I didn't have any other chance. I left my business and I came to Kurdistan. Since he arrived, things changed dramatically. And the fact is that with his men, I think they are more or less, they don't want to say, but as much as I understood, they should be something like 70,000, 80,000 men. They arrived with General Barzani strategy. They defeated ISIS and they got back something like 20,000 square kilometers that ISIS took in the beginning of the war. That's something like the Israeli territory, more or less. And then he said to me, the better thing to do is not only to show to you maps. Come with me and let's go to the front in my Jeep. And everybody was very nervous because they were afraid that ISIS would try to kidnap him. Now, the front between the Kurds and ISIS is 1,050 kilometers, exactly. And they fight every day, every place. So he took me for 100 kilometers, I believe, in his Jeep. And he was really protected by a lot of people. And one of the things he showed to me, and this is important for you to see, is he said, Americans, they don't talk about that. And the coalition, 60 countries, they don't really publish that. But I wanted to see these pictures. Can we have the sound just for 1 second? It was before. If you can go just a little bit earlier. These are drones, American drones, with the operators 12,000 kilometers from Syria and from Iraq, attacking every day, every time, Kurdish territory. I mean, Daesh territory, ISIS bases. Now remember, the operators are very, very far away in the United States, and they play with their joysticks. But he said to me, General Barzani, that's the reality. But only with these drones, only attacking like this, you can't defeat ISIS. He said to me, they are not so good military men. That's the way they look at them. But they are very motivated. And I must tell you, in a certain moment, something happened. There was a bullet on the window of the Jeep, and he didn't even blink when it happened in his Jeep. And he was like very calm, and he was trying to avoid any kind of movement with ISIS. But there was a battle near us for hours. And they were fighting and fighting, and I saw the Peshmerga people just trying to assault the ISIS people, and they were in the other side, 800 meters from us. And in a certain moment, I see that everything gets quiet, and the soldiers, one of the officers, come to the general and said to him, "General, we just finished the fight. We killed 22 men, and we have 5 prisoners, and they are waiting for you to ask them whatever you want." And the general said to me, you know, he's a fan of Barcelona football team. And I'm very connected with Barcelona football team, so I think he wanted to impress me. He said, "You want to come with me? If you want, you can ask them whatever you want." And we've been something like no cameras in that point, but something like 1.5 hours talking with them. With 5, most of them were locals, Syrians and Iraqis. They say, and they laugh, all the foreigners, and there are 30,000 foreigners, or more, maybe nobody really knows, 6,000 Europeans, they say they kill and they die very fast because they are not very good warriors. But the local, they have experience, they are used, so they are tougher. But then the colonel, one of the officers, came to the general and said, "You know what happened? We heard a girl voice after the battle. And you went to the house where they were hiding, and there was a Yazidi girl, 15 years old, naked. It was a sexual slave. And actually, I saw it with my eyes afterwards. They brought her. And German delegates in Kurdistan came to pick her up. They are taking more than 1,000 women recently to Germany to have post-trauma treatments, mainly Yazidis and also some Christian women." When he spoke with me and when we were just traveling, patrolling in the front, he told me, "General Barzani, you know, ISIS is like Genghis Khan. They have 5,000 cars, Toyotas. They have some weapons. They don't use the best weapons they have, you know, but they really kill people. They have the best internet, the best TV cameras. Al-Hayat, which is the propaganda unit, is the best that could be. By the way, some of them have the title of emirs, those working in productions, those working in propaganda, in really psychological war. And the first thing they do, they lead everything, also in the battle, but also when they go and there is a decapitation, they lead. The film director is the one leading everything. He runs the show. And he tells when to start the decapitation and how to do it exactly and how to move the knife. And then you'll have a result, which is the YouTube film. You know, we've been also, he took me to the refugee camp in Erbil. They have 1.5 million refugees. They are 7 million in Iraq, the Kurds. But they have 1.5 million Christians and Yazidis. In the last 2 years, I had the privilege to work with the Pope, with Pope Francis, in many projects. And the Pope asked me personally to check what's going on with the Christian population there. And by the way, being Jewish, I was in a mess there, and they do it in Aramaic. And it really sounds like a chazan, like the Jewish chanter in the synagogue. It's the beginning of Christianity. Those are the villages where Christianity really, the people, they were the first in history, the first Christians. And they came to me and I asked them, "Why did you left your houses? Why did you come here to the refugee camp? Did ISIS attack you?" They said directly, "No. But we saw in YouTube they were arriving to our villages. They were arriving to our cities, and we were afraid. So we left everything the moment we could with our passports, with a little money we had at home, and that's it. And we left the house as it was, because we didn't want to see them with our eyes." So they asked me to say to the Pope, to ask to the Pope for help, and the Kurds want the Pope to visit Kurdistan, which I think it's not going to happen because it could be very, very dangerous, as you can imagine, in the near future. But it was important, that definition of General Barzani, when he said to me, they are like Genghis Khan, because they use this psychological war as their main strategic weapon. And then they can advance for thousands of kilometers without any kind of resistance. And he said to me, We are the only people, we are the only boots on the ground really in this front. There is the Iraqi army also in other places. But here he said, we are the only boots on the ground, and we don't want no one to come here. We don't want other armies to come and fight with us, for it's enough. Our men are ready to pay the price, the blood price. But we need weapons, because we are fighting with very, very simple weapons. By the way, Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel, told me it reminds to him the Palmach, the kind of weapons they have. And it's true, it's very basic. You can see the kind of weapons and equipments they have. So they said, if the West wants us to defeat ISIS, they should ask us, they should send us new weapons and more modern weapons, because it's the only way we have. Now, during the interrogation, the general was quite nervous, and he said to one of the ISIS, I thought he was the leader, really, one of the most fluent speaking and explaining. He was from Raqqa, the capital of the Islamic State. And he told me, tell me something. What do you have against us, Kurds? We did something to you? We did nothing. Why do you attack us all the time like you're doing now? And you know what was the answer? Because you are Israelis. And you help, you accept the assistance of Israelis. And you cooperate with them and with the kafir, with all the how do you say, the Gentiles, all the ones who are not Muslim. And you accept the help of the United States and all the Westerners. And then the general took me after the conversation. He said, you know, it's not the first time I hear this. They think we are like the Jews, he said. We are the Jews of Iraq, for them, in a way. And it was interesting to listen to him and to listen to the way he sees the future of the Middle East. But that's only if we have time and the professor allows me before they start shooting.
I allow you.
Before they start shooting here. So
I told you the machine guns at 8:25.
8:25? Oh, okay. So we still have 15 minutes. Now, before we said goodbye to General Barzani, he said to me, I want to show something to you. I want to show something I'm building, which is something very personal for me. The Martyrs Square. My colleagues, my friends that were killed in the fight, I'm trying to remember their names and to feel and to show to you that place. And we went there, and suddenly his assistant, the number 2 of Mahmoud Front, came to me and he said, before you go, I want to ask you a favor. My name, as you know, is Mike. I'm Jewish. I'm from the United States. I came here and I have relatives in Israel. Do you mind to call them? And he gave me a cellular number. Do you mind to call them and to tell them that everything is all right here? So that was one of the surprises we had at that moment. And suddenly, after the interview with the general, we got a message that the president would really break his silence for many, many years, and he would give an interview to us also in Salahadin, which is where the presidency is, which is a kind of a fortress, 45 minutes from Erbil. And to get there, the only way to get there is with a government car and protected by his officers. So we got there, a huge building, and he works there alone. It's really a protection. They are afraid from all kind of ISIS attacks. And that we had a kind of a good conversation. He spoke in Kurd, and I asked him in English. And he said to me, you know, one of the things he said, Daesh, as you know, is an extension of Al-Qaeda and is supported by reconverted generals from Saddam Hussein who suddenly are Islamists because it's good for them now to be Islamists. He thinks that one of the most important things in the near future is to kick out ISIS from Mosul. And he said to me, we are preparing for that, but we need American and European help in that way to get it. And then when I told him, do you think it is possible an independence for Kurdistan? His answer was very clear. He said, it has nothing to do with Daesh. The process leading to our independence was there before Daesh, and it will be there also after Daesh. And then he said, please ask for Pope Francis' help. We are protecting the Christians here. We don't want them to leave. They are part of our society. We have a Muslim moderate society, and in that point of view, we are a model. And then he said, and now I want to take you to the garden. And we went alone to the garden. And I asked him, what happened, President Barzani? He said, everybody is listening inside. And he meant the Iranians, the Turks, the Americans, and others. And he also said, maybe your friends also are listening to our conversation. And then he said to me, you know, we really need help. We had a very good relation with Israel in the past. But Israel betrayed us in 1997 when Israel preferred Turkey to Kurdistan. And now we think that we have common interests. And there is a kind of a new coalition being built in the Middle East, and we would like to be part of this coalition together with Israel, which was quite interesting. I told him something the Pope, and he allowed me to publish it, something the Pope told me to say to President Barzani. And I think it's an important way of seeing the situation. The Pope thinks we are in the beginning of a third world war after Paris. That was, as you know, his declaration. But he said to me, it's not enough to win in the military front. It's vital to win also the media and the education war, to avoid any kind of violence in the name of God. And to do that, there must be a plan, a big plan, a huge plan, done by Muslims with the cooperation of Christians and Jews to try to educate the Muslim world, not only the Muslim world. He spoke also about radicalization in the Jewish world, in the Christian world, and he said it's important to stop that process. And that's also one aspect of the countermeasures against ISIS. Then we left the President Barzani, and one of his assistants told me, you know, we are in the middle, on a crossroads, really, in this place. And this is one of the richest places on earth. So there are lots of interests because we have a huge amount of oil, of gas that we didn't start exploiting yet, and also all kind of important and vital metals. So this is our heritage for our independence. And I asked him, and what do you think will happen to Syria, to Iraq? What will be the borders? Sykes-Picot is dead. ISIS killed it. It was one of the first things they did. He said, yes, I believe we are going to see a new configuration in this area, which will be Sunnis with Sunnis, Shiites with Shiites, and an independent Kurdistan as the next state recognized by the UN. I told him, I hope you're right. I'm not sure you are, but I think that Kurdistan, after seeing it and after feeling this country, by the way, they are the biggest people in the world, 45 million people, without a state. And they are divided into 4 states. Iraq, 7 million. In Turkey, I think 18 million. In Iran, and also in Syria. And they think that that part of history should be done and should be finished. Now, when I spoke with General Barzani about Israel, you know, it's quite interesting because, I'm finishing, we'll be there. He said to me, you know, many times people just came to me, Kurds, officers in the army, politicians in the Interior Ministry, for instance, they came to me and they said, you know, we want a strategic relation with Israel. Israel should be a partner of ours. But every time they said that, they mentioned the word Israel, they lowered their voice and they looked behind their shoulder. But General Barzani was very brave, and he said to me, you know, Henrique, I believe that regarding the Arab-Israeli conflict, there is quite a long but vital sentence to understand them, and very open and very clear. He said, the Arabs and even Palestinians can solve their problems with Israelis, but the rest of the Arab world doesn't want that. Assad's regime always says There is a big enemy, Israel. That's their way of holding the people far from democracy, General Barzani is saying. They say Israel, the Jews, are dangerous people, so they don't want to solve the problem with the Palestinians, to continue to lie to the people. Not because it is such a big problem, it's a mentality. The TV editor of the Kurdish TV said to me, his name is Karwan Akrai, he told me that the same way that the enlightened world solved the problem with the pirates in the past and the abduction of airplanes in the 20th century, it is possible to defeat Daesh in the same way, by international cooperation. And that was the main message they gave to us, to me, and to try to bring that to Israel and to the Western world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I very much look forward to seeing the series on TV, and I am committed to watching it, unless it, of course, conflicts with the Barcelona game. Thank you very much.